Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Sam Gabriel here, and before we get into today's video, there are a few things I would like to say. Firstly, a thank you to everyone who worked on this project from beginning to end, and secondly, we would like to announce the WTC Naruto Minecraft server, which will be acting as the sponsor of today's video. On the WTC Naruto server, you can play as a ninja and build your own village. There are many different clans for you to choose from, so it would be awesome if you joined us over there. Now lastly, this is a complete series video. So if you're interested in seeing more of this sort of video, then make sure to leave a comment in the comment section and leave a like. It really does help. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. It all happened in an instant. Cementos set up walls to buffer the attacks of both students. Todoroki's fire erupted from his left side, and for the first time, without thinking, Midoriya pushed One for All throughout his body. The arena exploded from the impact of the two fighters and the drastic change in temperature. The steam created was immediately blown away toward Shoto before disappearing. Todoroki lay unconscious in a bed of his ice right outside the ring. Hunched over, his entire body shaking and his arm broken, Izuku stood on the edge of the arena. One for All still sparked over his whole body before he collapsed and fell into unconsciousness. The audience fell silent as the two contestants were taken to the infirmary. Midoriya woke up in an unfamiliar bed. Recovery Girl noticed immediately and told him what happened, while scolding him for being so reckless. He replayed what had happened in his head that ended up getting him there. He looked around for Todoroki and couldn't find him anywhere. Recovery Girl told him that Shoto's injuries weren't as bad as his, so he already woke up and left. After a minute or two longer, she kicked Izuku out, saying he was already healed and that if he was feeling fine, he should get out and prepare for his next match. He only had a few minutes to get ready for his fight before he and Iida were called out for their event. He spent the time thinking about what he'd done during his match with Todoroki. He felt One for All coursing throughout his entire body. He'd never even thought to use it that way, but how he did it eluded him. The situation reminded him of when he first got One for All and was training with All Might. The first time he had sent a punch towards All Might, he had regulated his power subconsciously. If he wanted to continue to use One for All in such a way, he would need to practice and figure out how to do it again. Midoriya didn't have time to think about that, though. He had to leave for his match and think about it later. When the match started, both fighters decided to end things as quickly as possible. Immediately, Iida activated his reciprocal burst, jumped at Midoriya, and sent a kick to the side of his head. Izuku enabled One for All in his arms by this point, and caught Tenya's leg with both hands, getting pushed to the side by the force of his kick. Iida sent his other leg towards Midoriya's side, but before he could make contact, Izuku spun his already captured leg, causing Iida to uncontrollably spin in the air. Taking back control at the last second, Tenya landed on both feet and instantly bolted at Izuku. Unable to respond in time, Midoriya was grabbed by the collar and dragged to the edge of the stage. At the last second, panic began to set in for Iida as the situation changed. Time seemed to slow down for him as he turned his head to check what he already knew. His time was up, his engine stalled. Izuku didn't hesitate to take advantage of the situation. He activated One for All on his legs. In one swift movement, he slipped from Tenya's grasp, spun around, and kicked Tenya over the edge of the arena. Frustration took over Iida for a moment. Upset he couldn't live up to his brother's legacy. After taking a deep breath, he turns to face Izuku with a smile and hand extended as he spoke. "You've truly shown how capable you are, Midoriya. I still have long to go if I wish to properly stand as an equal to you." Izuku took his hand and returned his smile. "You were really amazing. I couldn't react to your reciprocal burst at all." The two friends shook hands and walked off the arena together, talking. They parted ways when Izuku got to his prep room. Once Iida was alone, he sent a message to his brother. Afterward, he went to the stands where the rest of his class was. When Tenya got there, everyone gave him words of encouragement and praise for doing so well. After a while, Ochiko asked where Izuku was. Tenya told her where he was, and she left to talk with him. Midoriya spent some time calming his nerves and thinking to himself. He made it to the finals of his first ever sports festival, and he was starting to feel the pressure. This last fight was going to be his time to shine if he was going to make himself known to show everybody what a true hero was, and also announce that he was here, that he was going to be the next All Might. He was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard the click of the door opening. He turned his head to find Uraraka standing in the doorway. She came in, closed the door behind her, and smiled as she spoke. "Looks like you did it, Deku. You made it to the finals. I'll be cheering for you in the next fight, so do your best." She pumped her fist in the air with her usual enthusiasm during her exclamation. Izuku gave her a small smile and a nod. "Yeah, She walked over to the table and took a seat across from Midoriya as they continued to talk.
The next match is going on, you know. Tokoyami's going up against Bakugo.
Izuku shook his head no. I want to stay here for a while and get ready. I already have a lot of notes on both of them, so no matter who wins, I'll be ready. She vigorously nodded her head and gave him a thumbs up before she got up and left him to get ready for the finals. The match ended with Tokoyami yielding to Bakugo. Dark Shadow didn't stand a chance once Katsuki found out its weakness to light. Midoriya wasn't surprised. Kacchan was the full package when it came to fighting. What did surprise Izuku, however, was Katsuki walking into the wrong prep room. The two just stared at each other for a moment before he slammed the door shut and left for the correct place. Not long after the little incident, the two were called to the arena. When the match started, neither one of them moved from their spot. They just readied themselves. Bakugo took his stance with his palms open, and Midoriya charged one for all on his legs. After a few seconds of nothing happening, President Mike yelled at them to do something. Neither boy made any indication that they heard him. After a few more agonizing rounds, Izuku was the first one to move. He rushed at Katsuki and was blasted back with a massive explosion before he could get close. By the time Midoriya was on his feet, Bakugo was already pursuing him, blasting himself forward. Izuku charged one for all in his arms, and as soon as Bakugo was close, he sent a right hook to his face, sending him sailing back to land skidding on his back. Bakugo got angry, more than angry. He was enthralled with rage. He'd seen the way Izuku used his power against Shoto, even if almost no one else heard.
Damn it, Deku, stop looking down on me, you asshole!
He rocketed himself from the ground and went feet first at Izuku. Midoriya dodged just in time and kicked at Katsuki's head. Bakugo ducked and tried blasting Midoriya's stomach, but he jumped out of range using one for all. He stared down Katsuki.
What are you talking about? I haven't looked down on you once. No one has.
The two fighters met at a stalemate in the middle of the arena, going blow for blow. Katsuki powered his hits with his explosions, and Izuku flowed one for all into his arms. After a while, Bakugo cupped his hands together and blasted Midoriya back with a massive explosion. He was able to block the brunt of the attack using for all, but he was pushed backward. Still standing, Bakugo screamed at him as he let that explosion go.
Don't lie to me! I saw what you did against that half-and-half bastard!
Izuku put down his arm and looked Katsuki in the eyes with an expression as serious as he possibly could as soon as he stopped sliding back.
I can't do that again. I don't know how right now. My body just moved without thinking.
Bakugan's rage got broader and more menacing as they conversed.
Fine. Then I'll force you to do it again!
With as much strength as he could, he rocketed himself again and used a howitzer impact strong enough to break his wrists. Izuku didn't have time to think. He didn't have time to even act. When the attack hit him, he might as well have been a rag doll. His body shot out of the smoke and into the wall of the stadium behind him, falling limply to the floor. After a moment, Bakugo stood from the floor, letting his arms go limp next to him now that his wrists were useless. He couldn't turn or bend them. He couldn't even make a fist after that last attack. When he looked up, his eyes widened at what he saw. He was pretty sure Midoriya was out cold, but he didn't care. He started shouting. He couldn't accept a win like this. Beating Deku meant nothing if he wasn't going all out. He kept bellowing and admonishing the unconscious boy. Izuku had to be carried to the infirmary the second time that day, and Katsuki had to be dragged away and healed in a separate room. The award ceremony had to be held a bit later than anticipated so that Midoriya would be able to attend it. When the time finally came, Tokoyami ended up getting third place due to Iida needing to leave a family emergency. Bakugo was chained, cuffed, and muzzled so he wouldn't do anything to Izuku. All Might struggled to get the first place medal on him when the time came. Bakugo tried everything possible not to accept it. When it was all done and over, Izuku looked down at the second place medal he held in his hand. Deku lost to Kacchan, but that wasn't as much of a bother as it should have been. He couldn't keep his thoughts from wandering to Iida. He was worried about his friend, but not only that. The possibility that his old master could be responsible for the recent hero killings also loomed over his head. He was hoping against hope that someone else that shared the name Stain was going around hurting heroes. It was all he could do to keep guilt from eating away at him. If it was his master going about doing that, then he was, in part, responsible for not turning him in. The two thoughts weighed him down for the rest of the day. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.